I'm Mitch Bierman, and today I am here as the chair of the New World Center Committee of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. And thank you all for attending today's session on smart cities, Miami tech education and talent development that my committee is doing in conjunction with our Technology and Innovation Committee and our Talent Development Committee. This is a really exciting part two of a two-part program that we've had on the recent and very fast ramping up of the tech industry in Miami-Dade County and in central Miami in particular. And it's a very exciting time to be in Miami. It's a very exciting time to be coming to Miami, which the whole world seems to be doing at the moment, to take advantage of a great opportunity for the expansion of industry, jobs, economic development opportunities, and the like from all of the attention that we're getting from finance, from the Northeast, and tech from the Bay Area and everywhere else. And the focus of today's session on talent development is really about how we, the people who are already here in Miami, can benefit most from these developments. And we have a great panel of people that have been involved for a very long time in developing our talent in order to face the challenges of the 21st century and beyond. It's a hugely important undertaking, and perhaps nothing will drive the development of these industries here more than the educational efforts we've made. If you look around the country and you look around the world, the tech industry and most lucrative industries have developed in places that have provided the highest level of education. The Bay Area is framed by Stanford and Cal and other great institutions. Boston, of course, has Harvard and MIT. New York has Columbia and Princeton and NYU. And we have Miami-Dade College, FIU, University of Miami, and a lot of people who are sort of independently working to make sure that the young people here and not so young people have an opportunity to share in the bounty that is the development of this industry. And that's really what today's topic is all about, that and social equity. What we don't want to happen is for a lot of very wealthy people to move in to take these jobs and increase costs for locals so much that that people have to leave because they can't afford to live here anymore. And a rising tide should lift all boats, but the key to that is to make sure that our talent is developed in a way that it really can take advantage of that rising tide. And so the first thing I'd like to do is to introduce our sponsors today. We have Hotwire Communications, which is very involved in this effort, both as a developer of the technology infrastructure that we need and as a sponsor of many educational opportunities, some of which you'll hear about later. And then we'll hear from Baldwin English, who is the External Affairs Manager of FPL. And before I thank them again for their sponsorship, which has made today's events possible, I want to thank again Christina Desir, Stephanie Parra, Tanya Valenzuela, and all of the staff at Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce who do such a good job of making these programs just go on seamlessly. I'm going to say goodbye because I'm not going to speak again, but you're going to hear from Oscar Loinas, who is the chair of the Technology Innovation Committee, who's also president of the Homestead campus of Miami-Dade College, who will introduce our keynote. And then you'll hear from my co-chair, David Restiner, who's going to introduce today's panel and its moderator, Matt Haggman. And so I want to thank everybody again for coming. I want to thank everybody who participated in making this happen. And I want to thank especially our sponsors who are funding today's events. So without further ado, you'll hear a recorded message from Hotwire Communications.
The city of the future, connected and inclusive. Because as the world prepares for a huge technological upgrade, cities are reinventing themselves, balancing old values and new ideas. Introducing your partner, Hotwire Communications, transporting your smart city dream into reality through the power of fission fiber optics. Initiatives that positively impact the triple bottom line, like smart lighting. With promotional and emergency operation functionalities, every pedestrian corner gathers and sends information at the pace of life, designed or retrofitted to maintain your local character. Smart transit. Active management systems that provide real-time analytics, congestion mapping, and adaptive signal control. Smart security. Surveillance cameras, license plate recognition with effective monitoring to predict and prevent safety and security violations. All made possible with a custom-designed 100% fiber optic network, connecting your city with ubiquitous bandwidth, secured with advanced DDoS mitigation. Always on, always alert. Preparing cities and residents for the higher capacity demanded by density via small cells strategically deployed to enable 5G networks and all that it makes possible. Hotwire Communications is the perfect partner. Your vision, our technology. Building the future today. Headquartered in Southeast Florida with all U.S.-based technical support, our Hotwire Technology Center serves as a data hub and co-location, environmentally controlled, fully redundant, and Category 5 proof. The HTC houses our Global Network Operations Center with carrier diversity and 100% uptime service level agreements. You might not see Hotwire Communications on a billboard or hear about us on the radio, but we certainly have a lot to brag about. And our 100% fiber footprint continues to expand, while our white glove concierge level customer service continues to impress. You can see it, leveraging technology to serve people. Known not only for our beautiful architecture, but our world-class sophistication, Hotwire Communications and you. Smart ideas and smart decisions make smart cities happen. Fission Fiber Optics by Hotwire Communications, powering the future at the speed of light.
And we have Baldwin English from FPL.
Good morning. I'm Baldwin English, External Affairs Manager for Miami-Dade County at Florida Power and Light. It's my pleasure to be with you here today to present this webinar about education and talent development. At FPL, we're committed to making our state a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And one of the ways we do this is by investing in STEM education. These programs not only enrich students' experiences as it relates to science, math, and engineering programs, but importantly, they teach students about teamwork, collaboration, creativity, and other vital skills that will help them thrive in tomorrow's competitive work environment. They also help break down barriers and provide more opportunities to traditionally underserved populations. We support STEM programming in a number of ways, from sponsoring robotics teams, including a handful right here in Miami-Dade County, to launching a free open source virtual curriculum for grades 4, 5, and 6 that covers energy standards in science, English, language arts, and math, and more. And we also work very closely with our colleges, some of which are represented here today. For example, we've worked with FIU for more than 3 decades. Our longstanding partnership there is keeping talent right here at home and creating a workforce that will be attractive to other companies, including FPL. The FPL-FIU partnership and on-campus customer care center is designed to provide hands-on development and career opportunities to students by employing them part-time as customer service representatives. We currently employ several student care representatives and welcome many interns from the university each year. We also have a great relationship with Miami-Dade College. Earlier this year, as part of an important workforce development program to help Floridians get back to work, we donated nearly 500 laptops to students pursuing rapid credentialing programs at Miami-Dade. It was part of our more than $1 million donation to several colleges across the state for rapid credentialing programs. Workforce development is critical to the future of our state and local economy, and these programs will have a significant impact on students who otherwise wouldn't have access to technology to complete their studies. All of these are examples of our commitment to our customers and our communities today and for years to come. Now, here's a short video that talks a little bit more about our support for STEM education and what we're doing to help develop our next generation of leaders. Enjoy.
Florida Power and Light Company, a subsidiary of NextEra Energy, Inc., is the largest energy company in Florida, serving more than 5.6 million customers across 43 counties, from Miami to Pensacola. FPL is committed to delivering America's best energy value, energy that's not just among the cleanest and the most reliable in the country, but also affordable. FPL is committed to investing in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM education. Our diverse educational programs focus on breaking down barriers to opportunity and giving students and teachers the chance to collaborate, collectively problem solve, and achieve common goals. We also have an unwavering commitment to serving our communities during the COVID-19 pandemic, with programs, innovation, and technology to help meet evolving needs and educate the next generation of innovators. STEM programs strengthen students' capabilities to pursue careers in science and engineering. At FPL, we seek future employees with these STEM-related skills who can help support our company's goal of continuous innovation. We are committed to enriching student experiences in science and math programs, which help prepare students for exciting, well-paying jobs. To raise interest in STEM education, FPL sponsors over 100 robotics teams at all grade levels throughout our service area. In 2020, we provided FIRST robotics teams with over $100,000 in funding. We also sponsor the annual FIRST Robotics South Florida Regional Competition, which draws more than 50 teams from around the world. Students who participate in programs, such as robotics teams, not only learn engineering, they also learn about teamwork, collaboration, creativity, and other vital skills needed to thrive in a competitive work environment. Each year, a $20,000 college scholarship is awarded to an alumnus of the FIRST Robotics program. Through a traveling science show called Kilowatt Kitchen, our company also helps more than 53,000 grade school students learn about energy conservation through a live stream performance. FPL's Energy Curriculum portal provides a robust virtual curriculum for grades 4, 5, and 6 that covers energy standards in science, English language arts, and math. The free, open-source online curriculum is designed to ensure that students have a deeper understanding of the importance of energy and all of its forms. FPL has forged community partnerships with the Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida and the Urban League chapters of Palm Beach and Broward counties to offer programs and workshops that will increase awareness of STEM. We firmly believe in supporting programs throughout the communities we serve to help accelerate the growth of STEM education and careers, break down barriers, and provide more opportunities to traditionally underserved populations. FPL is dedicated to investing in STEM programs that enhance students' capabilities and help move Florida forward.
Thank you, Baldwin. Thank you, FPL. Oscar's here now to introduce our keynote.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to have you join us this morning. As Mitch mentioned earlier, my name is Oscar Loinaz, and I'm the president of Miami-Dade College's Homestead campus. I also have the privilege to serve on the board of the chamber, and I'm the vice chair for the Technology and Innovation Committee. Unfortunately, Mark Katikia, who is the chair of the committee, was unable to be here with us today, and as a result, I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker for this event. Madeline Purmariega is the president of Miami-Dade College, and I believe she's the perfect person to lead this conversation about Miami Tech education and talent development. I've listened to her speak passionately about the importance of connecting talent to the workforce, specifically in the tech space, and I'm happy she's here to share that passion with you as well. As a Miami native, she has seen the evolution of our city and the progress we have made in the areas of technology and innovation. As someone who has spent over 20 years working at the college and then appointed to serve as a chancellor for the Florida college system, She has also witnessed the efforts that have been made to ensure our community is trained and ready to meet the needs of industry. As a champion for workforce programs, she's focused on community development and helping MDC serve as a talent pipeline to Miami's growing tech ecosystem. Since returning to MDC earlier this year, she has taken significant steps in that direction, which I'm certain are the beginning of new and innovative win-win partnerships for Miami. I'm very excited about the conversation we're having this morning, and I'm happy to ask President Purmariega to do us the honor, and let's get started.
Thank you, Oscar. We are lucky to have you, and we're very happy to have you leading this effort for the Chamber. I want to thank the Chamber for putting together such a thoughtful program, and I think a star-studded panel that follows me. I think that's where the superstars are for our community. But I'm so proud to be here this morning with you to talk about smart cities, smart campuses, and the importance of working together. I think that there are some real pillars that support the ecosystem of a smart city and a smart campus, and they really begin with talent. They begin with the human capital of our community. They follow through innovation and what we see in the entrepreneurship and tech and arts and culture ecosystem, innovating. It also blends in with efficiencies. Doing all of this and not creating efficient pathways is to then what end do we build these smart cities and smart campuses, smart universities? And it really then is, how do we integrate them? And I think those are the pillars of that ecosystem. And as I said, it starts with talent. Miami-Dade College, along with our university partners, are working to align our production of talent, if you will, to industry needs. And that means that it's in demand, real time. I think that many of our students will continue our traditional university pathways, our 2+2 pathways. Just today, Inside Higher Ed had a wonderful article about the partnership Connect for Success between Miami-Dade College and FIU and strengthening that pathway. But I also think that with the rapid and acceleration of innovation and integration and technology, we're seeing the need for much more in-demand credentials, those stackable credentials, micro credentials within degrees. You'll hear later from Dean Antonio Delgado that is leading our efforts at Miami-Dade College as we're building those rapid response credentials to help not only recover past the pandemic, but I think that what the pandemic did was really accelerate the future of work, the future of cities. A lot of this would have happened probably over the next 5 years. The pandemic made us adopt technology and innovation in ways, especially in higher ed, that would have probably gone through a couple of task forces, committees, and years of adoption to be able to adopt them in days, if not months. And in regards to how we deliver our education, how we personalize that learning experience for students, and how we support talent in the ecosystem in our community. I think that another aspect of that ecosystem, again, driving that talent and ensuring that the talent that we are putting out to the community is reflective of our community. And that means that it's building those partnerships with early college pathways, blurring the lines between credit and non-credit. I think in higher education, we are hyper-focused on credit accumulation that leads to a degree. And business industry is hyperly focused on skill acquisition. And I think blurring those two position us to innovate programs that are responsive, because I think that is a secondary pillar that follows talent and the human capital, is the way that we invest in innovation through ensuring that we're supporting one another here at the college, working with the different partners and developing those kinds of initiatives. It's also the way that we support students, the need for more real-time support, not a passive approach. I've always said that the Uber of education is arriving and has arrived, and how education institutions will be competitive in the future will be their ability to innovate the way that we serve students and we deliver that in-demand time, and the way that we build those faster and more nimble partnerships with industry by leveraging technology, by leveraging data and analytics, which really takes me to the next pillar that I think is important, and that's the integration. How are we leveraging the data? How are we supporting data and data science within our institutions, within our city? We know that Mayor Francis has opened up City of Miami data for us to be a smarter city, be able to be more responsive. I think we have an opportunity as well in higher education, and especially how artificial intelligence is just changing the way that we do everything. How do we leverage that? How does that give us the predictive analytics that we need to be more efficient cities and more efficient colleges, which is the next pillar, I think, is about efficiencies. We can do all of this technology, we can adopt all of this innovation, but if at the end, what's the purpose? And the purpose should really be building connectivity, making sure that we have a city that is connected, that there is no hassle in getting wireless or plugging into different networks, that we're doing that in seamless pathways and seamless roadways. The ways that we can do it here at a college and building smart campus is from our IDs, the way that students utilize their IDs, getting them access in a seamless way, to smart lighting, which we're doing across our colleges, to the way that we build energy efficient buildings. I'm so proud of our Culinary Institute, which is LEED certified, how we continue to do that and set the path and the model for our city to continue its work and its vision of being a smart city. And what that really means, as I close, is having a smart city, smart campus ecosystem is about partnership and collaboration. How not only the public and the private sectors come together, but also how we engage all of our citizens in understanding the importance of that connection, of the innovation, of where they fit in that ecosystem, and how the future of Miami has arrived today, and that we are living the most exciting time and innovative time in Miami. And I'm so proud to be the president of the institution that is that workforce engine for our community and serves as a beacon of hope. We are democracy's college, and I think the path that we're on is really exciting, and I'm happy to support all of the initiatives the chamber is doing and our business partners have, and can't wait to hear from Matt and our panel and Saif and Leigh-Ann as they really talk about the work that they're doing in leading strategy and innovation and supporting talent and entrepreneurship and technology and that entire ecosystem in our community. So thanks again for having me. I'm excited for the days and years ahead of us. We are so fortunate and blessed to have the chamber and Alfie and his leadership team helping us lead the way and think thoughtfully about the future of our city. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. That was terrific. My name is David Restainer. I'm the Managing Director of Commercial Real Estate at Douglas Elliman, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved in putting this program together. Thanks everyone at the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, certainly our sponsors, and who are an amazing panel, which is what I'm about to introduce to you. And thank you very much, participants, for joining us today to learn more about making Miami a smarter and a better community and city. First up, I'd like to introduce Leigh-Ann Buchanan, President of aīre Ventures. Leigh-Ann Buchanan is a rising star and has been for some time. I met her first at the New World Symphony, where you could tell that she was going to be a force in this community for good, and she continues to do so. She founded the Venture Cafe and has gone on to help out many founders in their endeavors throughout our community. Antonio Delgado is the Dean of Engineering at Miami-Dade College. He's extraordinarily dedicated to educating locally for local jobs now and into the future. He's worked with Tesla, Google, Amazon, and the AI Center, and he'll tell you a lot about what is happening with us and and go more in depth about the stackable credentials, as the president had just alluded to. Cristian Carranza is the administrative director for the Miami-Dade Public Schools, which is the fourth largest school district in the United States of America, representing 160 countries. And for students who speak over 50 different languages, there's an 89% graduation rate now in the Miami-Dade Public Schools, 28 magnet schools that have national awards of excellence, the most merit awards winners for the last 9 years in a row. I'm sure he'll tell us more about that. Saif Ishoof is the vice president for engagement at Florida International University, FIU. The future is us, right, Saif? He'll talk to us about what's happening at the university and how it engages with those public schools and the access program, I'm sure. Saif is everywhere. He's a great friend of the chamber and makes tremendous contributions, and is now working with Mayor Francis Suarez to leverage that influence that he has to further advocate on behalf of our community. And we're very, very pleased and lucky and honored to have Matthew Haggman, the Executive Vice President at the Beacon Council's One Community, One Goal program, as our moderator. I met Matthew a very long time ago, and he is a very curious traveler from Boston. And like so many people, he came to Miami and got sand in his shoes and stayed, and has been another great force for our community. I recall in maybe 2012, 2013, Matthew was sharing his time on a Saturday morning discussing with Leadership Miami what was to come, the state of things to come, and the infrastructure that was being built to create a great tech community. And so without further ado, I'll let Matthew talk to us all about Miami tech education and talent development. Take it away, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. It is a pleasure to be with everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with this really remarkable panel, and of course, an honor to be able to follow President Purmariega. Today, we're going to take up talent and talent as it relates to building our tech and startup ecosystem here in Miami. And fundamentally, the two ingredients to any ecosystem are funding and talent. And last week, we had a long and terrific discussion about funding. And today we tackle the all-important issue of talent. And we do this at a really critical point in Miami's growth. For nearly a decade, there has been a concerted effort by so many of us to build Miami's tech ecosystem. And right now we're really at an inflection point, a growth spurt on that journey. And in many ways, we sort of have two tracks coalescing. The ecosystem that so many have worked to build is bearing fruit. I mean, think about it. Chewy, founded in 2011 in South Florida, has exited, IPO'd, and now valued at more than $30 billion. Sixterra became a publicly traded company this year, valued at more than $3 billion. Nearpod, an ed tech company, has had a $650 million exit just in the last few months. Reef in Brickell has raised some $2.3 billion and is rapidly expanding. And just yesterday, we learned about Papa, the healthcare company started in 2017, has raised another funding round, this of $60 million. Meanwhile, amid COVID, we're seeing this great reshuffling. People are reevaluating their lives, where they work and live, and what they do. And Miami, candidly, has been a big winner in this. Consider Jack Abraham at Atomic, Keith Raboy at Founders Fund moving to Miami, and things like SoftBank committing $100 million to Miami startups. Taken together, it's a really good time to take stock. And talking about talent, I think a case can be made that the tech ecosystem development game today in Miami can be boiled down to a talent game, full stop. And I say this because I think back to, David was referring to back in 2012 and 13 when we were starting with myself and Ben Wers are starting the Knight Foundation program focused on building Miami's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And there were so many things to solve for them. I mean, there was almost no co-working. They're trying to have a sense of community and possibility, all took so much work. And I would argue in so many ways, we've made great strides in so many parts of the ecosystem. As Manny Medina said last week, the pump is primed. But what the real outstanding question is can we provide the talent to continue to fuel this ecosystem going forward? And as we take up this question, the talent question isn't just about driving business development and economic growth. It's about expanding opportunity and achieving shared prosperity across the community. So with that in mind, I want to first turn to you, Leigh-Ann. for our first question, and virtually no ecosystem, maybe we can come up with some exceptions, perhaps Stockholm has been able to win the great prize of being a place that's driving real innovation, but also a place of social mobility. Instead, we've seen many examples of actually going the other way, San Francisco being exhibit A. Here in Miami, I think, for all of us here on this panel who've worked so hard to build Miami's ecosystem over the years, I think that we've talked a lot about being a place that does both. And we want to be one of those places that achieves that great prize of both driving innovation, but also achieving real inclusion and social mobility. And so, Leigh-Ann, to start off with the very big question, how do you think we can actually make that goal a reality?
Of course, you throw me the softball, Matt. But that is, I think that's I wouldn't say $1 million question. I would say that's the $1 billion question, which is really how do we achieve tech equity in a variety of places? And I think the way that I would answer that question is we start off by understanding where we want to go. I know, you, Matt, Saif, and others were involved with the Miami Tech Manifesto that was released, earlier this year. And one of the things that we set forth was just what's the principle, what's the vision, where are we trying to go, what is our North Star? And for me, I always think about, what does a READY ecosystem look like? READY, being an acronym for racial equity, diversity, and inclusion, because if we don't intentionally design for a ready talent space here in Miami, our default will not be that. And so, that means equitable access to opportunities. It also means looking at a sense of being able to have those on-ramps. When I think about the talent and pipeline domain specifically, as a part of the larger tech innovation and entrepreneurial community, one of the frameworks that I really love to reference that I think gives us a really helpful starting point is the Kapor Center's Leaky Tech Pipeline. And what it does is really identifies the 6 critical areas of priority to really fill the gaps that exist in the pipeline that are most pronounced when you look at Black and Latino individuals who, starting in pre-K and going all the way up to, careers in corporate environments, are leaking at a faster rate out of the access to equitable opportunities when it relates to tech. So those 6 areas look at how do we increase equity in K-12 education, specifically around computational skill sets and exposure to STEM education. We know in Florida specifically that only 33% of high schools actually teach CS, let alone the drivers for, the types of talent that we're looking at, data analysis, machine learning, software engineering, requires at least AP computer science. And that's quite frankly not available other than dual enrollment at, Miami-Dade College and FIU. Secondly, looking at that computer science education. Thirdly, we actually have to have pronounced pathways into tech careers. It's not enough just to say that there are careers, but looking at how do we design and communicate those pathways to everybody, not just some that have the social capital or the relationships or exposure. Also, within companies, when folks land in those companies, particularly if they represent underrepresented backgrounds, we need more comprehensive READY or diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies to make sure retention is addressed appropriately. And then finally, something that you've been a part of, Matt, for example, we need those public-private partnerships to develop a future computing workforce. And so I know, Anthony, you're going to talk a little bit about this later on, but those public-private partnerships, I think, are really key. And I would say public-private and philanthropic partnerships. How do we bundle those resources so that we can amplify the impact of the programs that are working instead of replicating the same thing and calling it by a different name?
Terrific. So Antonio, or Dean Delgado, want to turn to you. And particularly drilling in on the whole idea of sort of the leaky pipeline, right? And we're going to get into all of the stuff that you're leading around building engineering talent, but would love to speak to you, and Saif, then I'll turn to you next. Love if you could speak to this whole idea of ecosystem for all and how we're sort of reaching out and connecting across the community, and then avoiding, as Leigh-Ann said, the leaky pipeline where sort of people fall off along the way?
Great question, Matt. And first of all, to mention that Miami-Dade College serves more than 100,000 students every year. So that by itself is a huge, demonstrator that we are serving our local community and we're creating those pipelines for our local community. And more importantly, 80 to 90% of those students are minorities. So this is Miami. Like the ecosystem that we're building, let's not talk about the other ecosystem. We're building our own ecosystem for our local community, which is mainly minorities. So I'm glad that what Leigh-Ann said about getting our local people with the right opportunities and creating an ecosystem that is accessible for them. That whatever company comes to Miami or the companies that are here are going to grow with our own local talent, which are going to provide the diversity that most of these companies are looking for, and a diverse workforce that is already well prepared. So to your question, how are we, Miami-Dade College, preparing the students to be ready? And the first way is by saying, like as Leigh-Ann mentioned before, how can we create those private-public connections to make sure that if we're going to start training about technology, as we have been doing, we look for the leading company in technology that is driving the innovation in that type of technology. And we have many examples like Amazon Web Services as a leading company in cloud computing that we partnered with AWS 3 years ago to create the first cloud computing program at a higher education institution in Miami. And 3 years later, we see how we have got more than 200 students from our local community certified with AWS, and AWS is coming back just last month to hire 8 students from Miami-Dade College cloud computing program. So that shows that a connection, first to give the students with the skills that they need to be productive. In this case, cloud computing is one of the most important skills looked after in LinkedIn for the last 5 years. And then secondly, those same companies coming back to Miami-Dade College to say, hey, I like what you're doing. I like what we developed together. I like to get the outcome, which is students that are diverse, but are also ready to get those jobs. And another example is the opportunity that we had to develop a program with Tesla. Florida at large is a second state buying electrical vehicles right now, but there wasn't enough electric vehicle technicians in Florida. So Tesla had an issue. How can we find talent? And that's why we partnered to say, we're going to create a program in Miami-Dade College to make sure that our local community that wants to work for Tesla has that opportunity. And that program in only 15 weeks is creating a pipeline that has been going already for a year, and 4 different cohorts of students that every graduate from that program gets a job with Tesla. So those are examples of those partnerships. And we do it in a way, in technology especially, that is, as we were discussing, or the president mentioned before, the stackable credential pathway, the rapid credentialing system, that you don't need to wait 4 years to get a bachelor degree. You don't even need to wait 2 years to get an associate. We're doing it in a way that you're getting certificates, that you're getting trained, and you're ready for a job. So that at the same speed that you learn the skills, you are getting certified with industry certifications that validate your skills, and then you are ready to start getting a job. And then you start stacking into the associate, into the bachelor, while you already have a job that can help you sustain yourself and honestly get a ticket to the middle class. It's the mobility that we were discussing, how we get our minorities with a ticket to have that opportunity to a high-paying job in technology.
So terrific, Dean Delgado. But and obviously Miami-Dade College is the dream factory, the largest and the most diverse college-based campus in the country. And FIU is, of course, the most diverse, and I think now Saif, top 5 in the country in terms of size among public research universities nationally. A question I'd love for both Saif and also for Dean Delgado to think about is that, are there barriers for FIU and Miami-Dade are already stand out for being so uniquely diverse, but are there barriers within our community for students coming into the pipeline, tuition, connecting across the community? As we think about sort of the pipeline, does it require us being even more intentional than we already are? Saif.
I think that's a good morning. Thanks, Matt. I think that's a great question. And the reality of what's been taking place over the last decade in our community, if we think about education, is that we have this triangle between Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Miami-Dade College, and Florida International University. There are few other markets in America where you have singular entities that are able to control K-12, college, and university, and that are so deeply aligned. Some other communities view talent as you need better buckets. In Miami, we've focused over the last decade in building and creating better plumbing. So if you think about the pathway programs that Miami-Dade College has with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, you think about the dual enrollment offerings that FIU has with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. If you talk about the Connect for Success initiative that President Purmariega mentioned, which is the pathway program between Miami-Dade College and Florida International University, we have focused very, very strategically as an ecosystem around better plumbing and ensuring that talent across a wide spectrum, young people in our community, adult learners, and others. And we're going to hear from my good friend Cristian Carranza and the great work that M-DCPS is doing. But the bottom line is that in our community, we've had this all-in approach around moving the needle together. I think it's also important to recognize, even if you go beyond the big three public educational institutions, and Matt, you know this because the Beacon Council has been part as a function of One Community, One Goal, the Academic Leaders Council, that 7 years ago, we created the Talent Development Network to make sure that we removed all barriers. So if you're a small company, if you're a company in Miami and Gutierrez, and you're an accounting firm and you're looking for talent, you have an ability to find paid internships in the same easy way that a Florida Power and Light is able to do that, in the same way that a Baptist Health Systems. We created one singular portal called the Talent Development Network that's able to connect students with paid internships. And we know that the data shows that experiential learning opportunities are really the pathway. Paid experiential learning opportunities are a pathway and lead to young talent matriculating at a much higher level into full-time jobs. So I think as our community has really leaned in, both at a collaborative level between the three large-scale public educational institutions, but I want to give a shout out to our academic institutions across the board, our community's only HBCU, Florida Memorial University, of course, the University of Miami, St. Thomas, Barry, that they have been working in concert with us, which is the reason why, as you rightfully surmised, Matt, I think that this moment that we're having around tech in Miami, a lot of it points right back to this, as President Rosenberg often talks about, this cluster of talent that is Miami. I think that it's not just the tax environment, it's also recognition that our region has globally competitive talent from K to 20.
100%. And I would like to turn now to you, Cristian. You know, in so many ways, as we think about talent development, it's this layered approach, and Saif was pointing to it. As we think about sort of longer term with universities, then we sort of come down a little shorter term with certificate programs and boot camps, and then very, very short term around just recruiting talent. But as we think sort of laying that foundation and going furthest out is, of course, around K through 12. And that's where you are. And, you know, Leigh-Ann said something in her remarks that, I think, Leigh-Ann, tell me if I'm misquoting you, but that only 43% of schools across Florida teach CS.
Last time I checked, it was 33%.
33, okay.
On up. And but Miami-Dade probably has a higher ratio.
Of course, no, that's statewide. We want to be very clear to everyone listening, we're talking statewide. But with that in mind, Cristian, would love for you to talk about sort of from K through 12, how you're thinking about computer science, and in particular, though, also how you've changed your approach, you know, over, let's use the last 10 years, as Saif was talking about the ecosystem, the educational ecosystem we've built up, knowing this future, this tech-enabled future that's not only coming, that's here, how you've been thinking and changing K through 12 education.
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm in 100% agreement with Dr. Purmariega that one of the silver linings of COVID, if any at all, right, is that it has pushed education to adopt technology at a much higher level. So starting even in kindergarten, our kindergarten teachers to 12th grade teachers are implementing the SAMR model, which is the classroom or technology integration model that we've adopted. Due to the pandemic, the implementation of that SAMR model has our teachers, being trained and then implementing the strategies with our students, even in pre-K. Not only just using technology as a tool, but using it to modify and redefine the practices of teaching and learning in all content areas. The pandemic has pushed us to truly think of what's important and what is the most crucial piece. And to us, what that means is ensuring that our students feel supported, that our teachers feel that they are capable of delivering the skills that our students need, and that our parents have the option to be able to truly have pathways of learning for their students that will allow them to be successful. With that said, we've, for the last 6 years, developed a program called the STEAM School Designation Program that allows the students activities and pathways and courses and curriculum that promote not only science and technology, but mathematics, engineering, design processes, and even the arts, because we believe that the arts play a key component in the development of the child. To give you a specific number, 121 of our, we're a big district, of our 480 schools have earned a designation, and we have levels of designations, bronze, silver, and gold, readily available for the public to see, to ensure, again, being a school district of choice. As part of that, we have seen a huge interest, and we've been able to collaborate with our partners at FIU and our partners at MDC to ensure that our teachers feel they have the skill set readily available to turnkey the information that we know that engage our students in a high level and that our parents want. Honestly, our parents want STEM in the classroom. So we have to make every effort to ensure that our teachers are able to deliver. We do that with the partnerships that we have with both FIU, MDC, and of course, internally. Then our students are provided curriculum pathways that not only begin at the high school level, but also start at the middle school level. In preparation for those curriculum pathways that emphasize all the 7 aligned to the One Community, One Goal initiative categories, we begin in the elementary level. We begin in the elementary level because we know that children at that point, in some instances, shy away from those content areas. So we provide enrichment opportunities. We have robotics, just like Baldwin mentioned earlier, through FPL. And we have ongoing collaborations to show critical thinking, logical thinking, coding and programming in partnership with FIU and Miami-Dade. They begin at the elementary school level and then transition to the middle and to the high school, where our students at the high school level are leaving our Miami-Dade County Public Schools, 70% of them earning college and career credit. To give you some basic numbers, industry certifications, we have about 100 at the high school level. At the middle school level, we have 15 in all content areas, but with emphasizing here IT. And of course, we do offer computer science principles and computer science A, because we offer 32,450 students that have earned at 3, 4, and 5 in AP alone. So we're a big district. Talent is here. To give you an idea, we graduate over 23,000 students. So the benefit, of course, goes to Miami-Dade and FIU with our graduates, but our graduates in some instances go straight to the workforce. And that's because we offer pre-apprenticeships and we offer internship opportunities starting at 15 years of age.
So one of the things, thank you very much, Cristian, super interesting. And one of the things that there's been reporting on is that school systems struggle to have the adequate number of teachers to teach STEM at scale. What's our experience here in Miami-Dade County?
that's not an isolated event. That is also impacting Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I will tell you that in all the content areas of STEM, we see a critical shortage area. The way that we have tackled that, again, is leaning on our partners, both at MDC and at FIU. FIU has a program called FIU Teach that allows our content area graduates in both math and science to interact directly with Miami-Dade County Public Schools so that they could transition into these areas. Similarly, we have that with Miami-Dade College, where we partner and we focus in not only on math and science, because again, we see a critical shortage in the computer science area, right? IT is something that is impacting, of course, the workforce. And as you can imagine, if it's impacting the workforce, it becomes even more difficult for us to find individuals that want to go into the teaching area of IT and engineering. Both of those are critical shortage areas. We strongly lean on FIU and MDC for that, but we also look for individuals within our current staff to be able to train them. Luckily, we have been able to be blessed this last couple of years with financial investments from the state of Florida that would allow certification in computer science for our teachers. And we're taking full advantage of that, again, also in collaboration with FIU and MDC.
Wow, I wonder if that's something that as a community we should talk more about, because we're talking the importance of STEM and just tech learning generally. And if we don't have the teachers to do it, obviously that presents a real challenge. So really appreciate you highlighting that. So Saif, I want to turn to you or to turn back to you and, tell a quick story. I remember, back at night when we were figuring out what to focus on and thinking we're going to launch a program focused on the entrepreneurship and helping build the tech ecosystem here. Someone handed me a blog post by Paul Graham, of course, who started Y Combinator. And Paul Graham talked about what's it going to take to build other ecosystems. And he said, it requires talent and funding. He said it requires people with money who want to support, and it requires smart people who want to build smart and ambitious and tenacious people to build businesses. But he said in the post, Miami will never work. And he had written this in 2006, if I remember correctly. But then he said, there are three things for it to work in a city, for it to build a new center of innovation. And he said, one, you need a thriving art and cultural community. Two, you need dense urban environments. And three, you need a strong university system. So sitting back in 2012, thought about Miami and thought, you know what, we have a case to make in all three. And in particular around the growth of our universities. And as Mitch said at the opening, really all successful ecosystems have had at their bedrock universities. We had this really exciting news, of course, with a $10 million grant to FIU's School of Computing. I want you to talk a little bit about that, because that's something that can be a real backbone as we think about of our community and our tech communities. We think about this next generation of growth. How will this play out, this grant? What will this look like? What should we expect as we move forward?
So I just want to start with saying, boy, was Paul Graham wrong. And as the founder of Y Combinator, he should also be ever so proud that there's one building in Miami, an apartment building, that has more Y Combinator alums than any other building in the United States of America. So Y Combinator, the renowned incubator program. So I bet if Paul Graham could go short against his own statement in 2006, he would, it proof positive, never bet against the 305. We all know that, which is the reason why we're here. It is a losing proposition to bet against the 305, especially if we're talking about talent. And towards that end, the recent unprecedented announcement by the Knight Foundation of this catalytic investment into our School of Computer and Information Sciences was ultimately a conversation that had been many years in the making, as you well know, Matt, around how the Knight Foundation, through philanthropic resources, could amplify the knowledge base, the faculty, and the work that our FIU has been doing. And so as a university, under the leadership of President Rosenberg and our provost, Ken Furton, we have chosen and identified several areas of research preeminence, as well as several areas of emerging research preeminence. And when we began to asset map all of those different areas that we had, as well as thinking about the pipeline that we are the beneficiary of, this decades-long momentum, the work with Miami-Dade County Public Schools that's been underway under the leadership of Superintendent Carvalho, the work at Miami-Dade College, we had begun to recognize, going back almost 5 or 6 years, that FIU is the largest producer at the four-year institutional level of Hispanic engineers and one of the leading producers of Black engineering talent in the United States. And so for many of us who'd been working in the talent domain, we were beginning to see Facebook, through their Facebook University program, which is their leading paid internship pathway program, coming out to FIU. We'd seen companies like Spotify, technology finance companies like JP Morgan Chase. And so we really recognized that a combination of resources, both philanthropic, as well as state-based funding, as well as national federal funding opportunities, meant that this was our opportunity to take a massive shot on goal. And with the philanthropic support of Knight, we would be able to scale up our faculty and density of researchers in areas like AI, cybersecurity, machine learning. So on one end, it was the density around being able to attract and scale up the faculty that are needed, because as we know, transformational technology hubs, as much as I love hipsters in Wynwood, really it's about PhDs that are able to provide those types of postdoctoral resources. And no disrespect to my hipster friends in Wynwood, we will see you soon enough. There's no loss of love, and we're so excited that Founders Fund and Atomic are now located in Wynwood, so we'll be able to encounter our great culture. But truthfully, the Knight Foundation investment is allowing us to scale up those PhDs, those researchers in those fields. It also means that it amplifies what's happening with our students. We have a student technology group on campus, Matt, and I know you know this, as does Antonio, Leigh-Ann, and Chris, called UPE, which is the largest student technology group on campus. The UPE students, I mean, as young people, younger millennials and Gen Z would say, they are lit, they are on fire. They actually host the largest hackathon every year in the state of Florida, which brings a lot of our students from Miami-Dade College, lots of students from Miami-Dade County Public Schools, lots of faculty from our peer institutions in the market like University of Miami, as well as, of course, our FIU. But really what that Knight Foundation investment is doing is that it's driving the momentum both on the faculty side as well as on the student experience side. And I think both of those things are equally important. And the final tier of it is about removing the fourth wall between industry and academy. We already have an ultimate software laboratory in PG6 at Tech Station. I know everybody on this panel has been out there, but now we're looking at, with the new arrivals of companies like Blackstone, with other companies that are coming to market, an opportunity, again, against the pipeline. This is not about a singular institution winning. This is about moving the entire ecosystem forward. So Antonio and I are constantly on the phone. Cristian and I are constantly on the phone. And more importantly than that, our faculty members and our student groups are always aligned. So I think that the Knight Foundation investment, as well as the resources we've been able to unlock from the state, as well as the ability for our faculty that are bringing down academic research dollars from the National Academy of Sciences and National Sciences Foundation, is proof positive that this density of talent is really predicated first and foremost in, can we attract research talent that is able to make those investments in our students so that they can ultimately reach the forms of success. And we don't have to lament. Leigh-Ann and I talk about this. We don't want to hear any firm in Silicon Valley talking about a talent pipeline challenge. That is intellectually lazy. That means that you're not spending time on campuses in institutions in regions like ours or with HBCUs in the Metro Atlanta region. We now have completely solved for that. But truthfully, we need deeper forms of industry partnerships so that we can get more paid experiential learning opportunities. So that's why we're so excited about this transformational Knight Foundation investment. And we know it's only the tip of the iceberg of what Knight Foundation and other philanthropic funders can do in our region with FIU, Miami-Dade College, M-DCPS, and the other academic institutions here.
You know, terrific. And, just to dig in on that a bit more, one of the things that I've always been amazed by, and this has been sort of an ongoing pain point at least that I've seen, and I imagine you have as well, is that, well, you'll spend the morning talking to a company that talks about their challenge to find talent. And then in the afternoon, you're with this really talented person who's amazing. And they say there are no jobs, right? And you say, wait a second, where is this disconnect? Leigh-Ann, I saw you nodding. Speak to that. How ultimately can we come to grips with this?
So I agree with Saif with a qualifier, which should come as no surprise. We don't have a talent pipeline problem. Of course, there's always ways that we can improve the pipeline, but we do have a talent placement gap. And specifically in one area, which is growth talent. So when you look at the life cycle of a company, a lot of talent that has got the experiential learning opportunities that's coming out of these academic institutions, they're really, really bright. But you need to have a full stack approach when it comes to talent in terms of being able to scale up a company. And where we're having challenges is not on that early stage, or really not on that entry level early stage, but really looking at seasoned operators. Folks that have experience in larger corporations, that have experience in, companies that have IPO'd, that have experience in taking companies from 100 to 500 or 500 to 1,000 employees. And so, when we look at Miami, I think Startup Chino in their recent assessment of our ecosystem said we had a low share of experienced growth employees, which could be attributable to a lot of things like, on average, Miami startups, technology startups or companies don't always give equity on par with other markets in terms of the employment incentives. Other issues that we've talked about in the legal space, specifically around non-competes. Florida is a state where we have a very strong non-compete culture, what makes it difficult for experienced growth talent to move from company to company the way you would see in Silicon Valley. And so when we think about this talent challenge, it is looking at where there are specific gaps in the pipeline and not just looking at pre-K to maybe 25, 30, but a little bit further on when you're kind of 15 years out, 10 years out in terms of experience, where are you going to land? There was a survey done recently that said 78% of Miami technology managers that they plan to expand the size of their team. But 91% said they had trouble finding skilled talent at more senior developer and software engineer stages. And anecdotally, we know folks who have left Miami because they had trouble matching. So an example of something that I think has potential, and it could be one of many solutions, is Talent Scout. Originally started by Miami Angels. Our team is working with Miami Angels to really scale it up. But Talent Scout really just started as a newsletter where vetted talent that's more seasoned, experienced, and operationally proficient could be connected with those companies that have received that are venture backed or have received investment from angels who are in that scale up trajectory to be able to get the talent needed to help them grow. So simple solutions like that, like Talent Scout, we have ideas around how we can expand it beyond just a newsletter to an actual scouting network throughout Miami, where it makes it a lot easy to curate the connection. Oftentimes, as you said, Matt, it is not just partly a placement gap, but it's also a knowledge and access to information gap around where are the opportunities and where are the talents that match those opportunities. So things like TDN are definitely doing an amazing job of solving for that talent placement gap at that earlier stage of the pipeline. Now we need a TDN for once you're out of school. And that I think will help us around our talent challenges locally.
Your thesis, Leigh-Ann, is we're missing people, right? Because we're seeing companies right now scale in missing people locally, because we're seeing companies scale in a big way. I mean, think about Reef, for example, how they're scale. And I just this week was sitting down with folks who are at Reef, who are here from Colorado and Seattle, right? And so Reef is recruiting people from elsewhere, along with hiring people here. Is your point is that it's require a mix of both? At this stage, or is your point that we're actually missing a whole bunch of people who actually are at that experience level who we need to connect better?
I think it's a mix of both. I think we're missing people that are here because we don't know how to find them. We haven't developed the frameworks and the mechanism to identify them and connect them with those opportunities. And so while companies are having a dual-pronged approach, they may have more success with their external non-market recruitment in terms of finding the talent, because we just need to build the mechanism.
Got it. And Talent Scout is something we should all be on the lookout to help solve for this.
Certainly.
That's awesome. By the way, just quickly across the panel, you mentioned non-competes. Is the view of our panel that we as a state should get rid of non-competes? Anyone want to weigh in? It's come up a lot, particularly people coming from California, where California has gotten rid of non-competes to offer much greater mobility. Mitch? Yeah, a new panelist.
I'm a lawyer and I deal with non-competes a lot, and I just don't see how you could do business, how you can buy and sell businesses without having non-competes. I mean, at least for the developers of the business, when they want to be taken out by a private equity firm, the private equity firm doesn't want them to just go down the street and start another business. It's just one of those things that, you know, certainly can be tweaked by the legislature, which it is about every 3 years. But I don't think that we can have a business community in which businesses or interests in business change hands without having the ability to restrict competition by the seller who has sold the value of that business to someone else.
You know, I think it's something perhaps that we should dig in on future panels, because it's interesting. I mean, you think about a place like Silicon Valley, that's, you know, at least as it relates to economic growth and innovation, it's worked out. And then California got rid of non-competes. So as a final question, and then I'm going to turn to the, and by the way, I'm grateful to the rest of the panel for weighing in on that question. As a final question for turning to the audience questions, wanted to go back to you, Antonio. You talked about certificate learning. We've seen boot camps of all kinds. A friend of ours, Ruben Harris with Career Karma, working to connect people to boot camps across the country at scale. Associate degrees, bachelor's, and then of course, within all of that, experiential learning, connect with whether it's with Tesla or AWS. Would love for you to unpack this a little bit more, because I know for me, it seems, you know, we got these different avenues for people to go down. Right now, as you're seeing people coming through the MDC engineering program, is there sort of a story you're seeing more than any other, or is it sort of this linear path through each of those three? And share a bit more about how the experiential component factors into each one of those three.
Thank you, Matt. So just to put this in perspective, I already mentioned we serve more than 100,000 students. Just on the School of Engineering and Technology, we serve 6,000 students on average every year. So for those that said, oh, there's not enough talent in computer science or engineering, like we are serving 6,000 students every year. Not that all of them graduate the same year, but this is a pipeline that is coming through our channel, as Saif mentioned. Most of them might come from Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Others might come from the workforce because they're looking for better skills or new skills to upskilling to get new better positions. But from these 6,000 students that on average that I have in my school, around 3,000 to 4,000 are looking for an associate in art to transfer to a local university like FIU. So we're the main pipeline of students to FIU for them to complete a full bachelor degree at FIU and continue from there to the workforce. Now, the other around 1,500 to 2,000 students that we have every year, those are students that are looking more for the workforce. They're not waiting 4 years to get into a job. Those are students that are pretty much between our certificates, which are short-term programs. Let's say that you are already a professional, you're working and in any area, not necessarily technology, but you see that, for example, data analysis is hot nowadays and it's growing. And then you see how can I learn that? And that's why we have a college credit certificate. It's a short-term credential that allows you to get the skills and get back to the workforce. You're not looking for a degree, you're looking for skills. And then we provide those skills either through continuing education or through these short version credentials, college credit certificates, to get you quickly with the skills. It could be in cloud computing and certifications in cloud. It could be network security. It could be business intelligence to get you into data analysis, or it could be Internet of Things. So these are hot markets that are growing, emerging technologies, and we create these short-term credentials to allow anyone, not necessarily the high school student that is coming from M-DCPS. We're talking about anyone that wants to come back to college, get some skills and get back to the workforce, or continue working, because our classes are in the evenings, to allow you continue working in the day and come to school at night to get better, to really aspire for a better job. Then the other option that as you continue growing on the stackable credential pathway is an associate in science. That is 60 credits, is 2 years like an associate in arts, but instead of focusing on the general education component to transfer, you are getting the skills to get into the workforce right after the associate in science ends in 2 years. Like you're looking to get hands-on skills, a degree that is focused on hands-on skills to get you quickly into the workforce. And what we have done in our associate in science, depending on multiple areas in technology, towards your previous question, how can we get the companies and how can we get more engagement between, you know, this talent that is needed? I agree, most like 50% of the talent might come from outside, but there needs to be a focus on the 50% of the talent that is local. So how do we connect with those companies to get our students either from that associate in science or the bachelor in science that we also have to get the students to the full experience of a 4-year career? Those associate in science and bachelor in science are focused on giving you hands-on skills that are making you effective day one on the company. So how are we doing that? We're creating showcases in particular areas that allow the students to get hands-on skills, but also showcases that allow us as a college to connect better with industry. If industry is part of the development of these programs and they are connected with the program since they were created, they have an investment already. They believe in what we're producing. And that's the example that I gave a few minutes ago about Amazon Web Services, when they invested on the program with us and they got the results. We have done these showcases, for example, animation and gaming. We created the Magic Center as the Miami Animation Gaming International Complex. And then we partnered with Nickelodeon on you know, character creation, animation. We partnered with DreamWorks. We partner now with Netflix. We partner with you know, game developers that are part of, they were part since the beginning of this development of a unique space that has that is mimicking the same experience that you have if you're working nowadays with Pixar, for example. You are learning that as a student. You have access to hands-on skills that are the same that you will need to use it when you get a job. So that's how we build our programs, with this type of showcases that we have replicated later on in cybersecurity. You learn cybersecurity by being under attack, not with a theory on a classroom on a board. You learn with a computer that is under attack, with real attacks. And that's how we prepare the students in these showcases, with companies acknowledging these skills. And by the way, companies that can also bring their own employees to get trained as continuing education, upskilling of your own team, because these are advanced skills focused on getting you with exactly what you need to be successful today, not with a theory from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, with the same attacks that are happening today in cybersecurity, the same we did in cloud computing, and now we're transitioning to artificial intelligence. With our recent conversation with SoftBank, with Marcelo Caure, and how are we thinking about the future? Not just where we are now, but how can we start thinking about where the jobs are going to be?
Right.
When we talk about artificial intelligence and everyone that is going to be displaced because artificial intelligence, that means that there are going to be a lot of new opportunities that are going to be created. But you need to know how to be ready. You need to know how to apply AI into a new job position that is going to be created. So that's what we're looking now when we partner with SoftBank and Correlation One to provide data science for all for minorities. Like, how can we create that pathway, and how can we start thinking about the future? And that's why we are developing this new artificial intelligence center as a showcase to bring companies like SoftBank and Correlation One and the REEF and the investment that SoftBank is doing in Miami to be part of this conversation with us since the beginning. And at the same time, bringing the tech leaders, as I mentioned, the Microsoft, the IBMs, the Amazon, to be part of the conversation as well, with curriculum, with faculty training. So we get the talent with the skills that are needed. So at the end, what we are envisioning is that when the students get out to the workforce, the companies that already invested, that already were part of the conversation, they can value those students more, and they can bring other companies to say, yes, I believe in this student. Where is the gap? And you and I have talked about this before, Matt. The gap is when the companies are looking for 3 to 5 years of experience.
Well, yeah.
And you don't find the entry-level positions for those that are graduating now. If you don't give them a chance, and this is a problem national, it's not only in Miami, but we can do it by working together. If you don't create those pathways, it's fine when you look for the 3 to 5 year experience, but you also need to create a pathway for the new talent that is coming out of our partnerships within our institutions, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Miami-Dade College, FIU. If the opportunities are not created for those students to get the first chance, the first step on the door, then it's going to be really hard to get this coming pipeline of talent from our system to get out into the workforce. And that's when they have to leave. And we don't want that. We want the talent to stay local, to be part of the ecosystem that we're building. So I'm going to close by saying that by working together with all of us, with the chamber, with all the members of the chambers and the new companies that are coming, that's how we sustain the ecosystem. And we're going to sustain it with local talent, with diverse talent, with the ones that live here, and they're not going to leave, because we're going to make a future for them to stay and to be part of what we're creating here.
Well, it is a powerful, powerful vision. And, with that vision and all that we're hearing on the panel today, I think, Miami really can be that place that makes good on that elusive dream of being a place that drives innovation and job creation, but also expands opportunity and drives social mobility. So it is daunting, but super, super exciting. Want to turn to questions from the audience right now. And we'll start with Uriel Bedoya, who has a question here that Silicon Valley has had an inclusion and diversity challenge they realized recruiting alone will never solve. Miami is incredibly diverse, but we don't see that inclusive representation, especially at the senior levels. Many students and young professionals are observing that. Miami now has a chance to get this right off the bat and as we create our very own ecosystem. How do we make founders, startups, and venture capitalists and each other as leaders truly accountable in this effort? A timely question too, as we're seeing this, as Miami has seen through the years, and it's really been such an important component of Miami's growth, a wave of new people coming here, which is really exciting. But how do we build in that accountability as we push forward? Who wants to stay? I know, Leigh-Ann, you have plenty on this, and I'll start with you, but would love to hear from the rest on the panel.
My favorite topic. So we've been thinking a lot about this at Air Ventures, which is actually why we launched the Ready Challenge, which is, I think many organizations here are partners on it, but accountability cannot be a performative endeavor. And so often we have these commitments that are statements or, goals, but we have no data to actually understand whether that's being met. And so, the Ready Challenge is an actual equity scorecard for the South Florida ecosystem, where partners and organizations that are involved in sharing it out. Yes, the Chamber is one of our ecosystem partners. Well, in addition to, having everybody participate and we get a scorecard among 8 domains, but groups get a data set, obviously de-identified, but a data set to understand what it measures. And one thing that I think that we don't often measure well, and this is really important when it comes to inclusion, is expectations, experiences, and gaps in access and opportunity. Oftentimes when we have surveys or we make an attempt to understand how we can measure accountability of different programs, strategies, or platforms, we're not actually asking the people who have the experiences or the expectations with those specific organizations. And so I think that things like the Ready Challenge, those types of scorecards, where even if you de-identify data, you can understand sentiment and experiential information about inclusion, which is really, the sense of belonging and whether or not people have access to opportunities and whether or not there are those clear pathways and roadmaps that are typically informal, that are very hard to measure unless you actually ask the experts. And those are the people that interact.
Saif?
So I think that one piece of it, of course, is setting expectations at a top level. And you mentioned at the beginning, Matt, that through a novel partnership between FIU and the city of Miami, I stepped into a role to serve as Mayor Suarez's senior advisor for innovation and technology, and helping to stand up a portfolio team that the mayor calls Venture Miami. And Leigh-Ann really talked about some of the critical process pieces. I just want to speak at the values level. So Mayor Suarez, in his role, we all know via the tweet that went around the world back in December 4th, the momentum that's really been unlocked, really new to market interest for our South Florida, which of course builds upon what local founders have been doing here for decades. But I think that it matters that we have as a region an ambassador and a leader in the form of Mayor Suarez. And when he talks about what we're seeking to do here in Miami, it's really simple. He says in Miami, we're seeking to become the capital of capital. And in that way, it's capital in a multidimensional sense. It's not just financial capital, it's human capital, it's cultural capital, it's social capital. And then the broader thesis that Mayor Suarez has articulated is this idea that in Miami, we're seeking to build and become an innovation ecosystem and economy that delivers for everyone. So I say that because it matters at a value statement level when you have our region's lead ambassador that's able to connect with the top voices in technology and in venture capital, when he's defining, whether it's in the local, national, or global media, what is Miami's unique value proposition? What is it that we view as our differentiating strength? For us, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not the kids' table at Thanksgiving, but rather it's embedded into the competitive DNA of our region. And I think that that really matters because it's not an afterthought. It's not a pillar unto itself, but rather thinking about this for our region is embedded into everything that we're doing. This ethos that Miami has to be a place where the innovation economy, the adult learners that Antonio talked about, we know that the pandemic has hit our service industry very hard. Ultimately, as a community, we will be judged for success if we are able to rapidly upskill, reskill, and be able to reaffirm those residents with career pathways of dignity. And I think that from a top level perspective, I think that's what we're seeing in our community. I know that the institution heads at Miami-Dade College, President Purmariega, Superintendent Carvalho, my boss, President Rosenberg, and countless other leaders in our ecosystem, Mayor Levine Cava, this absolutely matters in defining what is our flywheel, if you will, as a region.
So a very specific, did I see someone else wanted to weigh in on that? No, okay. So a question from Marlon Hill. We talked before the importance of mentorship, but this is speaking specifically to mentorship. And are we building a mentor-mentee matchmaking program by tech professional skill for long-term relationship building? Are we, or should we? Would anyone, who on the panel wants to take a stab?
I know that there's been a number of efforts throughout the years behind this. And I think that what's most powerful is that we've got leaders, local founders like, say, Will Weinrob, who's created the Local Leaders Collective, as well as other initiatives that are afoot. The Center for Black Innovation, the phenomenal work that Felicia is doing. They've now created a new cohort. Matt, I know years back there was Mentor Day. We've had a range of different initiatives in our community. I think what's really important more than anything is accelerating social mobility. We do need to drive those mentorships, particularly when we think about underrepresented founders. They will say again and again, we don't need more mentorship, we need more dollars on our cap table. And I think that oftentimes it becomes a quick pass to say, a seasoned executive will say, oh, well, I will mentor you. But the reality is what's needed is investment. We need to be able to get seed stage. We need to be able to get growth equity. And so I think that that's the conversation, and that's where the focus needs to be. I think mentorship needs to be a byproduct of that. I've worked and built mentorship programs. It's my origin. Having led City Year here, I believe deeply in the power of mentorship. When we think about our tech ecosystem, I think that even if you think about rising talent, the best way to get rising talent mentorship is being able to get them connected to better, higher paying jobs. That's my thesis around it. But it doesn't mean to say that there isn't an important role for creating some sort of pathway program like the one my dear friend Marlon just mentioned.
One final question before we wrap up, and Christina, tell me if we're keeping on time here. As we think about the educational ecosystem, the talent development ecosystem we have now, is the structure right where we want it? And I ask just because we've seen examples of other communities, namely New York City, that went out and actually, on top of a very robust educational ecosystem, then sought to bring in 2 leading graduate schools of engineering. How should, as we think about our next stage of growth from, and this, of course, I'm referring to Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island in New York City. As we think about our next stage of growth and the educational ecosystem that countless people across Miami have worked so hard to build, should we think about expanding that footprint? Or actually the footprint we have is a really good one and continue to build that specific one?
One opportunity that we have, and Matt, you're familiar with this from actually visiting and being from the Boston area, is to really explore what innovation districts, so those knowledge communities or university anchored innovation districts could look like, in terms of really connecting all of these different nodes, from corporate to education to government and around place. Innovation districts typically produce, an average of 4 times higher density in terms of tangible innovation per employee. Those with shared wet labs have more R&D dollars that they're able to attract, and a higher rate of patents and spin outs from those PhDs that Saif mentioned, that are really creating innovative technologies. But more importantly, the educational ecosystem is also tangentially closely related to opportunities and economic mobility. And so when we look at innovation districts, they produce, I think, 9 times higher density in terms of job opportunities. And so Kendall Square is an example where there's a lot of collaboration between different institutions from MIT, you have Harvard, you have different institutions within that area, plus the attraction of corporate innovation and other labs that creates just an amazing physical center of gravity that is at the intersection of talent, education, workforce, and opportunity. So that might be something we can think about it doesn't mean we have to move, campuses, but, look at downtown area. We've got the Wolfson campus. There's a lot of opportunity with Mana Tech and what they're building. So maybe we can be intentional about looking at nodes of innovation districts that could be helpful to our ecosystem.
That's a great point. You think about Kendall Square, that fluidity between corporates and universities. I mean, Moderna is in Kendall Square, right? So it's really an extraordinary sort of back and forth and collaboration. Okay, we'll go around the horn here with our final brief question for each of you. As we think about talent and our next stage of growth as a tech community here in Miami, what's one issue, if you had to pick one, or just, we'll assume that there are a whole bunch, but just highlight one for us that we should lean in on, and what's one value that we should carry forward?
Well, I can start with what I mentioned. The latest thing that I said is that connection with the main issue will be creating those entry-level opportunities for the talent that we're creating. Like if we are able to get companies to really create the opportunity for the new graduates, we're really fixing a huge problem that is going to blow the channel of talent coming up into companies. So that's the issue that I will see is key for me that we need to solve. But it's something that I'm very positive is the unity that I see between these institutions that are represented here and the ones that are not in this conversation today, but the unity to grow the ecosystem, as you say, like if we need to get to a next step, yes, definitely yes. When you started the movement for entrepreneurship 8 years ago, that was just the beginning. We're in a transition period to do more. And the key is that the union that we have to go all together for more and to help each other to go for more.
Terrific. Cristian, an issue that we should highlight and lean in on and a value that carry us forward.
So one issue is last year, we were one of the very few districts in the nation that kept providing students an opportunity for a summer internship. And even through the pandemic, we found a way to provide, hybrid experiences for our students. Yet the issue here being that we had, I'm going to tell you exactly, 2,675 students at the ready, but we were only able to place 2,072. So that's an area that we could definitely lean in as additional entities will allow our students an opportunity for experiential learning. We need more companies. If that's something that you're interested in participating, let me double check, tell you exactly where, miamigetmyinterns.org. In collaboration with the city and with the county and with Careers of South Florida and the Children's Trust, we go by the saying, you hire, we pay. So it's not even a compensation issue. It's an issue of being willing to take a 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old and mentor and teach over the summer and giving them an opportunity to really experience the world of work. And not only allowing them to do that, but earning money, which living in a community that is 70% eligible for free and reduced lunch, that's a key piece for equity and access. So that's the issue. Now, on the good side, we've been interviewing our kids, and the academies that are most popular at this point include IT, with an emphasis in gaming, obviously, why? Health sciences, and culinary. Again, we graduate 23,000 students a year, and 70% of them come out with some level of college and career readiness. Talent is here. The issue is, are we ready for them? Both not only at the higher learning institutions, but at the workforce. That's it for me.
Terrific. Saif, I know you've got to run soon, so why don't you go next?
Great, thank you, Matt. Thank you for my friends on the panel. I want to say that, and I usually, for my friends who know me, try to come at it with a crazy idea. I think the single most important topic when we think about talent for our region is we need an obsessive focus around adult learners. We need, as a region, to put out an open challenge and set data points. And maybe it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Like by the year 2030, we are going to upskill 500,000 more adult learners in our community. And we're going to create a scaffolding process where every institution that's represented here, as well as a number of others, are going to lean into this challenge. And we have an ability to differentiate ourselves as a region. If we are known, if we can take on a process of upskilling some, and we've got Rick Beasley, we know Career Sources playing their part, but this is something that's going to be require every segment of our ecosystem to lean in. Academic institutions, boot camps, it's going to require industry partners, it's going to require philanthropy. We absolutely, as a region, need to throw down a challenge to ourselves to say, we are going to become a globally leading transformational learning hub. That's fancy talk for us to say that all of our friends, our families, our neighbors that have lost jobs on one end as a function of the pandemic, and then on the other end as a function of the automation, which is continuing to decimate whole segments of the occupational spectrum. This is an area where our Miami, we can lead the country, we can lead the world. We should set some clear outcomes, some clear metrics about what we want to accomplish, who's responsible for what. And this is from small mom and pop shop businesses that are helping to provide upskilling and retraining opportunities for their current workforce to large scale institutions like the ones that are represented. And of course, very clear commitments from our business community around what role that they are going to embrace around ensuring that we can reach this big, hairy, audacious goal of our region upskilling a seismic number like 500,000 new learners by the year 2030. My boss, President Rosenberg at FIU, says in the future, we might not all be students, but we all must become learners. And adult learning is a bigger market than K-12 college and university combined. And sadly, in our ecosystem, we've had so many people who've been left behind. So I think that this should be an obsessive, singular focus for our region around adult learners and getting them upskilled. And then on the other end, I think the value that matters most for us in this moment is really the value of empathy. There's no algorithm that's more important than reaffirming human dignity. We know that there's a lot of opportunities afoot in our region at this moment, but at the same time, we need to balance that against the pain that certain segments within our community have felt as a function of systemic barriers. And I think if we really want to unlock the best version of the 305, we have to also give each other a little bit of grace. All of us are moving very quickly. We need to have an understanding, a common understanding. And I think that that common thread, that glue, is empathy. And I think that it's going to be a differentiating value for us as a region. We see it every single day with the way our communities come together, even in the worst and most challenging moments of the pandemic. That's what keeps me hopeful.
100%, Saif. And you know, Saif, it gives me great pleasure to announce today, right now, the Adult Learners Challenge that will be supported by Career Source South Florida. Rick just said in the chat, he's all in. So Rick, we're doing this. I love it. So what was the number? 500,000, right?
500,000 learners by the year 2030.
Rick, we're going to do this. To close us out, Leigh-Ann, please talk about what you think that we should lean in on. And of course, there are many, but highlight one for us and a value to carry us forward.
Sure. I'm actually going to go back to something that President Purmariega said, which is we need different types of data to understand where there are leaks in this pipeline. And I think that we often have percentage points, but we haven't asked people about their experiences. To Saif's point about empathy, there's a gap in understanding between the folks that we are trying to serve and the strategies often that we are implementing. And so for me, I want us to lean in and just capturing that experiential data to understand that the expertise is actually lived experience. And those of us on the stage, while we may have degrees, you know, our JDs, our MBAs, our PhDs, the real experts are the people who do not have the political capital, who do not have the social capital, and do not have the voice to be on this stage. And so it's incumbent upon us to design those data collection methods that are responsive to how regular people interact, and also to design strategies and frameworks. I'm there with you, 500,000, Saif, you know, there, like, I agree. We need to develop the framework though for us to do this together. And I think the value that speaks most to me is just to be intentional about collective impact. You know, talent is not a zero-sum game. And I think that's something that Miami ethos around this talent ecosystem really represents. But what we can learn from markets that have been successful in really prioritizing talent is that innovative partnerships, not just partnerships because we partner and we put people's names and logos on things, but those innovative and creatively designed partnerships that focus not only on institutional and individual level impacts, but are actually focused on systemic change. I started off by saying, Matt, you asked me the billion-dollar question. It's gonna take $1 billion or more to actually achieve tech equity in Miami. It's not gonna take 100 million, it's not gonna take 200 million. It's $1 billion investment over time. And so we really have to start with reimagining the way we work together and dialing down on our egos and really ratcheting up our focus on transformational impact.
Well, terrific. Well, I want to thank our entire and truly amazing panel, you know, all of us together and all of us who are on this call. We're on this great journey, trying to build an ecosystem that's not only driving innovation, creating the jobs for the companies of tomorrow, but also really expanding opportunity and driving social mobility unlike any other place in the world. And it's an amazing goal, and together we can do it. And so with that, I have the great honor of introducing the man who's going to lead us on the newly announced Adult Learners Challenge, none other than Rick Beasley. Rick, take it away.
Matt, one, thank you for what you do. And, you know, I really have enjoyed this panel. You all have done a fantastic job. So my hat's off to the Chamber. Again, leading this discussion. I know the Beacon Council is very engaged in this process and discussion. And Matt, with your role as the Vice President over One Community, One Goal, and looking at the target industries is going to be a key focus. And I know IT is going to be one of the main items there. So to Antonio, to Cristian, to Leigh-Ann, to Saif, thank you for the conversation, the discussion. Fantastic job. And so Saif, yes, we are in. We're with you on that challenge, my brother, on moving this area. So on behalf of CareerSource, and for those who may not know what we have been doing, and I'm partnering with the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, the Beacon Council, and others, FIU. You know, as I mentioned, I think we had this is our second session on this, but Miami Talent is a key focus for us. And so we launched our tech hire boot camps, and our tech hire centers. And I mentioned before that we wrote the application for Miami-Dade County to be designated as a tech hire community. But it wasn't just about the designation, it was about building the ecosystem and having great, wonderful partners involved in how we build talent for our respective community. And so we launched Tech Hire Centers in partnership with Big Brothers, Big Sisters that was focused on youth. We launched a Tech Hire Center focused on an area with the Opelika CDC, focused on an area that had the highest unemployment, highest crime, to erode that digital divide and creating a pathway for that community. And then we launched a Tech Hire Center in partnership with the YWCA, focused on enhancing and improving the number of women going into IT. And so those Tech Hire Centers' roles there are to help those respective populations. But among that, we have also been in discussions with the St. Law organization with Gypsy Metellis to look at building and opening a Tech Hire Center for the Haitian community, but then also building a Tech Hire Center with the Mexican American Council focused on migrant workers, again, adult learning. But beyond that, we launched our Tech Hire boot camps. And those Tech Hire boot camps were focused on our youth, building a future pipeline into IT. And so we worked in partnership with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and we were concentrating on high school students where they take a 6-week accelerated IT program, whether it's in gaming, coding, web development, cybersecurity, network administration. Those components, those students were able to take the classes, get a 6-week accelerated program. When they finished, we gave them $300. But on top of that, if they were able to successfully pass the certification where they get an industry recognized credential, then we give an additional $200 plus an internship for the following year. So last year, because of COVID, we expanded that, not just for high school students, we expanded for young adults. And so again, we're gonna launch that program again this year. And for those young adults, we're gonna continue to move them into employment after they finish the accelerated program. So we're excited about this challenge. And Saif, we're gonna be right there with you, partner. So please, want to set up a meeting with you to discuss that even further on how we can move forward with Matt and all the other folks that were here. But I'm glad that we're having this discussion. I'm excited that we are motivated to really build talent for this community because it's important. And for us to grow industry and to help build our community where it is the #1 community, not in the country, skip that, we're competitive, in the world, then we need to ensure that all citizens have access to technology, that we can build a talented workforce so that we attract and grow more companies here. So with that, on behalf of CareerSource South Florida, on behalf of the Chamber, I thank you for, again, sometimes you're not supposed to list the members, but Dr. Lonis, we thank you for what you're doing. Madeline, I didn't get a chance to hear your presentation, but I know you leading the college is gonna be fantastic for us. And then Diane, we know that you're focused on youth in the Overtown committee. So we're excited about the work that you're doing with these committees. So again, on behalf of Career Source, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you to all of our panelists. So on behalf of the Education and Workforce Development, the New World Center, and the Technology and Innovation Committee chairs, we want to thank you for joining us for today's program and supporting the Smart Cities series. So special thanks to our moderator, Matt Haggman, for moderating both panels for our Smart City series. And thank you to today's panelists, Saif, Ishoof, Antonio Delgado, Leigh-Ann Buchanan, and Cristian Carranza. There was so much that was discussed in this panel. Honestly, I feel like it could have been a 2 or 3 day panel. But one thing I really noticed, I loved how Saif shared, it's not about the success of a singular institution. It's about moving all of us forward. I'm just naturally drawn to those conversations about empathy, and it's such an important frame of mind to have as we continue to strive for those community-wide, equitable, and holistic success. So a special thank you also to our series sponsors, Hotwire Communications, Florida Power and Light Company, Career Source South Florida, of course, and Miami-Dade College. This program wouldn't be possible without your support. So if you've enjoyed our Smart Cities series, please consider registering for the Real Estate Summit Series event #1 next week, and that is April 20th at 10 a.m. And my notes just flew out of the screen. Let's come back here. So that's April 20th at 10 a.m. on Real Estate and Tech, the City of the Future, featuring speakers such as Mayor Suarez, our keynote speaker, and a panel discussion featuring Melissa Medina from eMerge Americas, Tigger Renrich, Lab Miami Ventures, Alex Bunego, Ford Automotive Vehicles, and moderator Javi Vasquez, Berger Singerman. I am sure I butchered a name or two, so I apologize. It's a pet peeve of mine. So, but that sounds like a fabulous panel with a lot of really cool panelists that are able to partake in that. So the chamber is going to drop some links to sign up for this event in the chat. So go ahead and check those out. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you to everyone for joining us.